gets disorderly. We got plenty of people to take care of them.
They're all going to leave, though, right?
Yeah.
Look at Greg out there. Holy mackerel.
I asked him, you should have brought your guitar with you. Play a little bit. He said,
You hear my comments on Kate's last one?
yeah.
Look at some body work. I don't know cut him.
Finished in the tub enclosure.
Okay. Yeah, I listened to it on the way over.
Started putting the cement board.
I didn't know he had that little hot rod shop there.
It's actually his son runs it.
There's something to do that.
I bet.
Yes, sir. What?
I got to get with you.
We need to talk about that because people buy a lot of hosters. My cousin all the time.
And it wasn't funny.
I mean the style.
Oh, the style.
Tell Mike.
Good to see a full house here this morning. We'd ordinarily open up the back and have more seating, but my understanding is that there'll be a large number of the folks exiting the building in a few moments, so we'll refrain from doing that. Amazing how we pay attention to the clock, isn't it? It's like a watched pot, though, trying to get it to boil. Last minute takes forever. I think we're close enough. If you please stand and join me for a flag salute led by Supervisor Ishida, and remain standing for a moment of silence.
Salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Please be seated. Well, our first order of business this morning is to recognize Greg Wright upon his retirement from the Sheriff's Department. Before I present the plaque to Greg, I know the Sheriff would like to say a few words and invite Sheriff Boudreau to come forward, give us a few words of wisdom here regarding Greg.
Well, to Mr. Chairman and members of the board, good morning. Jean Rousseau, good morning, and Kathleen Bells, good morning. I guess, Greg, do you want to come up here? A very nice white jacket you chose this morning.
He's been saving that, looks like.
1972? No.
Incarnation at home.
Nice. Well, you being able to joke around and have a good time has always been kind of something Greg and I have enjoyed with each other. We make fun of each other's ties. We make fun of each other's shoes. And quite frankly, it helped me get into fashion so that I would avoid the arrows and darts of Greg Wright in the morning for wearing the wrong thing. Yeah. So it's always been fun. And I have to say that with Greg retiring, it's kind of sad for us at the department in that over the course of my career, Greg's always been there for me. And he's mentored me, and private conversations and coming into a reasonable conclusion of some very complicated matters that only someone with experience such as Greg, and he's going to be missed. As you see in the back of the room, many of us have been mentored by Greg, either in a good way or a bad way, one of the two with door closed or door open. But either way, his heart was always in the right place, and that was for the Sheriff's Department, the benefit of the Sheriff's Department, so that we would become a professional organization and to thoroughly think through those issues that I discussed that can sometimes be so complicated. I cannot compliment a man even more than I am doing so for Greg this morning, and I know that he's not about this kind of thing. Actually, if he could avoid it, he would, because it's never been about Greg. It's always been about the benefit of what we're doing for the men and women of this department, and he's always looked out for his sheriff. No matter who that sheriff is, whether it be Bill Whitman or myself, he has always had that at the forefront of his decision-making, and so for that, I'm incredibly thankful. I've mentioned it before, but Greg's a friend. I can go to him and sit down and have a glass of wine and discuss issues of politics, as well as sit down and discuss issues of golf and mechanics. No knowledge from me on the mechanics side, but Greg, that's what he does. And so I actually have tried to talk Greg into sticking around, and his reasoning behind it is always very clear. Hey, I've made it. I've done my 30 years, and it's time for the next group to take over. And so for that, I just want to say thank you to Greg. Thank you for what you've been and what you've represented. And these words aren't fake. We've sat in closed doors before and had these very same words. He's a good friend who's an outstanding law enforcement officer, as well as one of the best administrators that I know. So for that, I just appreciate you, Greg, and best wishes in your retirement, my friend.
Thank you.
Greg, I'm going to come down and present you with a plaque here in a moment, the highest honor that we can give anyone in Tulare County. We're not allowed to give you money. And I know that many people have kind of wondered, you became assistant sheriff, I think, all of about 30 days ago. And I thought, why is he retiring now? And I finally decided I know why. Because you get to retire with a plaque that refers to you as assistant sheriff. But, Greg, I want to give you a chance to say a few words. And I don't know if you heard me. I spoke this morning on K-Tip Radio, but I referred to you as a Renaissance man. And I mean that. You are a man of incredible abilities and a wide-ranging interest in so many things. And so I know you're going to have a fabulous retirement, because you're not the kind of person that's going to just sit up and wake up in the morning and go, what am I going to do today? Because there's so many things ahead of you that you can do. And I think of you as a young man. Now, Pete's going to probably say something like, oh, yeah, well, you came to work when I was born and that sort of thing. But nonetheless, compared to Moses, who didn't get really started until he was 80, you've got a lot of years ahead of you. So it's a real pleasure for me to present this plaque. I'm going to give it to you right now. And I just want to say that Greg says, presented to Gregory D. Wright, Assistant Sheriff, in appreciation of your years of service and dedication to the community and Tulare County, January 21st, 1985 to February 21st, 2015. Congratulations, Greg. Thank you.
Would you mind taking this letter real quick?
I got the haircut.
Well, once this is done, then I feel like I can start retirement. As you know, this it's not my most comfortable place to stand. But I will say, Mike, you said that speech just the way I wrote it. It was fantastic. It's been wonderful, and I've tried to get through this whole thing without shedding a tear. And it's after 30 years, it's nice to be able to show some emotion again. It's just one of those careers that you go through, and you have no idea how much it impacts your family and yourself. And so I'm looking forward to just being Greg Wright, private citizen, and getting on with things. I don't have a lot more to say. I want to thank everyone for coming back there in the back. They're my heroes. They always have been and will continue to be, and I thank each of you. To the department heads that are here, it was really a pleasure. And it was a pleasure working with all of you on the board. those here today and those that were here before you. I go back a long ways with a lot of different board members, some that are still with us and some that have gone. But it was always a pleasure. I don't fully think that this county understands how privileged they are to have this board up here. Each one of you, have been able to work with each of you, Kathleen, Jean, and I've worked with others. And so I understand what you bring to the table and what you bring to this county. And I'm really happy that you were conservative with our retirement account because now, as Alan and I talked the other day, we have a great retirement system that's in one of the best shapes in California for sure, and I'm happy about that now. Yeah, it's just been a real honor, and thank you very much.
Greg, before you leave, I'm sure the other board members would like to say a few words. Start with
Yeah,
Mr.
Greg. Well, first of all, hey, nice tie.
Thank you.
I like that. But no, it's been great from this side too, working with you guys. I always enjoy working with the Sheriff's Department very much. They're a big part of my life with all the issues we got out there in the unincorporated areas and how you guys have always come to the front. But great job. Thought you was going to bring your guitar this morning. You said no, you had a little cold, so you couldn't sing. But like you do have a lot of different things that you do, a lot of different hobbies. You got the hot rod shop in Farmersville, which PK said something about on the radio this morning, said something about getting some body work done, and Steve thought, what are you talking about? anyway, great.
I said you didn't do that kind of body work.
But anyway, you're just a great guy, and you're going to be missed. I know that your fellows are going to miss you, but hey, great job. You got to be happy about going out at this time. You got a lot of life ahead of you. Maybe you'll be Methuselah. Who knows? So great. Good luck to you, and the best in your retirement. Thank you.
Thank you.
Greg, I remember when Bill Whitman put you in charge of the budget. And as we discussed the other day, that, it came with a mixed bag of feelings. But because of your background in all the different departments in the Sheriff's Department, that you weren't a bean counter. You knew what those dollars meant in all those budget items. And I think because of your experience, you've been able to help the Sheriff Whitman, Sheriff Boudreau move forward in modernizing and making our Sheriff's Department more efficient. I want to thank you for all your years of service. With 30 years, I can't say what I want to say, but I think it's great. And I think that's the great part about our department, that we have so many people that have tenure, that have all the experience that we need to run a great department. And thank you for your service.
Greg, I cannot count the number of times I heard, well, I'm going to have to ask Greg. I'm going to have to ask Greg. We would, run questions over the sheriff's office, anybody. I'm going to have to ask Greg. So you're going to greatly be missed, and I think you ought to be proud to know that you did carry that title over there of being the man that had all the answers. And so we definitely will miss you. We're going to find out who the new Greg is, I guess, pretty soon. But thank you for your many years of service, and I hope you enjoy many, many years of retirement. And the retirement system will be there for you.
Thank you.
Well, Greg, congratulations. 30 years is pretty incredible. I just hit my 30th on this earth last year. But in all seriousness, truly appreciate your dedication. For 30 years, you put on that badge and carried that gun and protected the people of Tulare County for 30 years, and you were so dedicated in doing so, as is evidenced by your achieving the rank you have within the department. People within the department, your peers, respect you. They look up to you, and they thank you for your mentorship, helping them to get to where they're at in their different careers, and really knowing that you have left a long-standing mark on the department, on Tulare County, is, I think, one of the greatest achievements you can possibly have in a career. So we're very blessed to have dedicated people like you who have given of themselves, their families, and everything you've done over the last 30 years to make this county and make the Sheriff's Department what it is today. So I congratulate you. I fear you even more on the golf course now because I know where you're going to spend a lot more of your time. I thank you, and I know that the best years of your life are going to be ahead of you, and you're going to have a very productive retirement, and I thank you very much.
Greg, thank you so much. I appreciate all of the folks from the Sheriff's Department being here this morning to honor Greg, and we do wish you well. I've always been impressed with your abilities, and I think you're going to have a wonderful retirement. So best wishes to you and your family, and have fun.
Thanks, Steve.
Thank you. At this time, the board is going to go into closed session to take up a matter relating to our general plan litigation, and we expect to be back in about the next 5 to 10 minutes. Thank you. We're back in session. I would like to take one item out of order before we go to the Board of Supervisors matters, and that has to do with our litigation on our general plan with the Sierra Club. And at this time, I would entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, I would motion that we approve the settlement agreement as presented in closed session.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Please cast your votes. Votes are unanimous. Now, let me just say one real quickly about this. I have here a hat that was given to me 3 chairmanships ago. It says, "Get her done." Remember Larry the Cable Guy? And at the time, the top of my list was getting her done was getting the general plan done. That was 3 chairmanships ago. And then 2 chairmanships ago, it was still on the list. And today, it's done. Yeah, that's what it is. We should break out the champagne. This is a monumental day for Tulare County, and I could not be more proud of the men and women who have devoted their lives and attention. I want to bring a special attention to Julia Roberts from the County Counsel's Office, and Dave Bryant from the Resource Management Agency. They have been with us from the beginning. And I will tell you a little story about Julia. When we were in the midst of this, and County Counsel came to me and says, "I think we need to hire outside counsel." And I told her, I said, "No. If we hire outside counsel, we're just going to have to spend a fortune educating somebody about what we already know that is in our historic knowledge, which is Julia Roberts. She'd been engaged in it. And I had every confidence, as did County Counsel, that she had the ability to pursue this. And I don't think that Julia, I hope it had nothing to do with her retirement, which is pending momentarily. But she saw this through, and because she knew all the issues going forward, we never skipped a beat. We just moved forward, and we would have been done much sooner. Honestly, it was the Sierra Club, which was very slow in responding. But to all of our teams, CAO's office, County Counsel, members of the RMA staff, and the Board of Supervisors for our diligence and willingness to take the time to pursue all these things and get them completed. I am deeply indebted to you, and believe me, the County of Tulare is it's like a new day today. So thank you to all. Dave, please stand up. Julia, please raise your hand. These are the 2 people I want to honor. And with that, we will now move to the Board of Supervisor matters. I'll turn to my colleague on my left, Vanderpool.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to go over a few things. Actually, last week, Gene, myself, and Marilyn Kenoshita and Julieta from our office had the pleasure of spending the evening with the Tulare County Farm Bureau's youth leadership class. It was another great group, and spent an evening with them educating them about county government and the Board of Supervisors. It really was a great evening, and thank you everyone for participating, and I hope it was beneficial for the kids. Also, that last Thursday was the grade separation ribbon cutting, as well as the Santa Fe Trail pedestrian overcrossing in Tulare. Two huge projects that got done and are going to improve the general public safety at the Bardsley intersection with the Union Pacific Railroad. It's going to be better for fire and police to be able to get across town, and it's just going to be a great project in Tulare. So really appreciate the partnership of TCAG, the City of Tulare, and all those who helped make that possible. It was a great event as well. Now coming up next week, since we're not meeting on Tuesday, there is a fundraiser for the Tulare County Fair Foundation, which is going to take place next Friday at 6 p.m. at the Tulare County Fairgrounds. I'm actually not going to be able to attend that event because I will be at a dress rehearsal for my murder mystery where I'm a French pirate that I'm going to be participating in on Saturday. So next Saturday, if anybody's into acting and wants to see me and hear a French accent, Encore Theater in Tulare is having a fundraiser.
Do we have to pay?
Yeah, you do have to pay. And actually, the price went up when they found out I was in it. But anyways, that event will take place March 7th at the Encore Theater in Tulare, and it's a fundraiser that they have on an annual basis to help that organization. And that's all I have. Thanks.
I was told the price of the tickets dropped. Okay, I was also at the groundbreaking and the ribbon cutting last week in Tulare, representing TCAG. It was a great event. That grade separation there at Bardsley is absolutely beautiful. So something that'll last decades and decades and be there long after we're gone. It's a great looking project. I've been spending a lot of time preparing for the trip to Washington, D.C. In early April, going back with TCAG. The Highway Transportation Fund, as we all know, is very critical to funding our roadways here, is in jeopardy. The atmosphere changes daily there in Washington, D.C., so it'll be interesting to see where we're at in April when we get there. Tomorrow I have the Retirement Board meeting in the morning and the Pension Task Force meeting in the afternoon. And then Thursday, there's a First Five meeting. Now, First Five meetings are typically held here in A and B, and this month we are going to hold that at the Government Plaza at our HHSA side of the building. That'll be Thursday at 10 o'clock. That's all I have, Mr. Chair.
Sheeta?
My comments are rather long since I didn't have any comments at the last meeting. Last week, Denise England, who's on our staff as our water expert, and I went to Sacramento, and we met with Martha Guzman and Community Water and talked about the Tulare Lake Basin study for disadvantaged communities. We had a very long conversation with her and outlined what we accomplished in that study and where we intend to go with the study. I think the main thing we wanted to emphasize to the governor's office is the fact that since we have this study, which is quite extensive, that we do not want it sitting on a shelf collecting dust like many of the studies do. And we were basically looking for some funding or switching some funding to where we can carry on with our community outreach meetings that develop this plan and put it in place. Martha came up with a great suggestion, and she will set it up for us to meet with the Department of Water Resources to discuss this plan. So, because they are now in charge of the purse strings of the monies that could be distributed to put this plan in place. So I look forward to having a meeting with them soon and discussing the plan. Later that afternoon, Denise and I met with the Assembly Committee on Environmental Safety and Toxic Materials, and there were 2 topics on the list. And the first topic was the East Porterville issue that we have with the lack of groundwater and all the wells that went out. And the second topic was on the Tulare Lake Basin study. We had many members from the Porterville community that spoke. We had Councilman Stowe and Garola also spoke. We had people from Self-Help, CSET. So we had a lot of people. And this hearing lasted for a couple hours, which usually doesn't happen in a hearing. You get about an hour at the most. I think it was very fruitful conversation that we had with this committee, and hopefully we will carry through with our emergency help in that community and other communities. One thing we tried to convey to Mrs. Guzman and to the subcommittee was that we were very thankful about the project in Cameron Creek, between Cameron Creek and the city of Farmersville. The water lines are being laid right now. They're almost complete, and I expect that the people in Cameron Creek will be able to hook up to Farmersville city water within the next couple weeks. After that meeting, I went to the California Water Commission meeting, and that commission meeting was receiving a presentation about surface water and how we have to have all these big storms, like a 500-year flood to fill all the reservoirs in the state of California. But what struck me about that meeting, we have gone to using all these models. I mean, we use traffic models, we use population models, we're using weather models, and without some common sense in people that have had experience, knowing that these models aren't absolute, we cannot, in my opinion, base public policy on a model. You have to have the human input and historical knowledge to drive policy besides the model. The model is only one instrument that helps you get to a policy goal. Now, going back to the water meeting, there's something I want to point out, is that we are looking at a drought this year that could be as bad, if not worse, than we had last year. We do not receive the surface water again this year throughout the Central Valley. It's going to be a lot worse for the communities and for some of the cities. So East Porterville is probably the tip of the iceberg. It could get worse throughout the Central Valley. The other thing that I want to point out is if this becomes the norm, we as the state of California and the County Board of Supervisors and the cities, specifically the city of Porterville, we cannot sustain the program that we've been administering now by providing the water to these communities. It's just not sustainable. Water, there's 3 elements to life. The most important basic element is water. The second one is nutrition. And the third is shelter. We as individuals have a responsibility to take care of that number one element for life. And we have personal responsibility to secure that element. The problem we have in East Porterville, and we may have in other disadvantaged communities, a lot of the people in these communities rent. East Porterville is about 50% rentals. The state of California, the County Board of Supervisors, and I'm sure the city of Porterville have a mandate that we cannot make a gift of public funds to private individuals. when you have a rental property, it's really the landlord's responsibility to provide that water. So as this crisis goes on, and I heard a story yesterday where someone rented a house in East Porterville and forgot to tell the tenants that they didn't have any water. I think, I don't know, sometime in the future, we're going to have to red tag these rental units unless the landowner has made provisions to provide water. And hopefully we can get some low interest loans for those landlords and homeowners to where they can drill a new well or get another source of water. On a less serious note, Saturday night I attended the Exeter Chamber of Commerce Community Awards program, and I want to congratulate all the award winners. Yesterday we had a meeting called by the Kikuya Conservation District of all the stakeholders and districts in the Conservation District area, and talked about the groundwater plan, sustainability plan that's mandated by the state. And it was an initial meeting just to kind of get everybody together and understand the process of what needs to be done. And this will happen on the Tule, it's happening on the Kings, it'll happen on the Pozo, the Kern River, basically every drainage basin in the state of California. It's going to be a long process because it's very difficult to get all these people together and form a governance body that's going to put out this plan. And the important part that was brought up too is that this group that is formed may have down the road enforcement authority. And it's very scary that this group may be mandated to say you can only pump X number of gallons of water. And I think that's what everybody's afraid of in that group, is they do not want the responsibility to go to the homeowner, to go to the farmer, to go to the businesses and say, okay, this is your allotment of water. And it also may be to where there will be areas of farmland that's going to be retired because of this regulation. Probably the most important issue that came up in that meeting was that we can plan all we want for groundwater planning and groundwater monitoring, but unless we have a surface water plan, the groundwater plan makes no sense. We have to have sustainable surface water, and we need to know what that amount of surface water is, because when we do not get surface water, as we've seen last year, everybody's pumping the groundwater, and you can't have a sustainable groundwater plan when everybody's pumping the water. I'm taking a lot of time today, but I spend 60% of my time or more just on the water issues, and it's very critical that we all get engaged in what's happening with the state of California and where we are on our water in our local communities. So thank you for your patience.
And thank you, Alan, and thank you for the time you do spend on that. It's very important to our county. Mr. Ennis.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To elaborate on that a little bit, I think growing up in Terabella, you had to see what has made the southeast part of this county such an ag industry. It's the Frying-Kern Canal. And when you take that water away, like was taken away from us last year, 500,000 acre-feet of water taken away, you can see where the groundwater becomes very important, but also is going to stage where we go in the future. If the surface water isn't going to be there, there's going to be a limited amount of groundwater. So it is going to it's going to be a take back from farmland eventually if we don't change our ways and get this surface water situation somewhere under control where we know how much we're going to get. Last week, I met with Kyle Lombardi from Congressman Nunes' office. In attendance at that meeting was the city manager, John Lawless, and we spoke on one of the subjects which Mayor Stowe spoke about at the hearing. It's on tertiary water, the water treatment plants that could increase the amount of gallons that the public could have and take this water, treat millions of gallons of water and put it on like the parks, the sports complex, the school grounds, and free that water up for more residents so that the city of Porterville can annex in the islands and then hopefully start moving east. But that's a very important thing, and we'll be working with the city as much as we can to try to get funds to see that they move that project forward. I think that's very, very important to that Porterville area. Last week, also went out to the sheriff's branding he had. It was kind of an eye opener to see. They got 140 head of cattle out there. They've got a pig farm, and how that cuts the costs of our meals for our prisoners throughout Tulare County. It's quite a program, and I guess that the number one thing held up with people doing public service is you better do your public service right or you're going to end up at the pig farm. So that was something that's kind of brought up. But luckily we were downwind from the pig farm having our barbecue. So that was a fun deal. I'd like to also congratulate Eric Crodel, the new police chief in Porterville, on his appointment. I thought it was a good choice. If you've got people that are well qualified within your organization and you can promote them, that's the best choice as far as I'm concerned. And so great choice as far as I'm concerned. I think you've heard that John Lawless is back there. I think he's heard that from everybody, that they're very pleased with that choice. On our consent calendar today, we have the South County Jail is on there, and hopefully we're going to have groundbreaking on that year end and start it up in 2016 to be the completion date in 2018. So that's good news for the South County also. We have some good news. We got 8 inches of snow at the Ponderosa, which out of this last storm. We've got another storm coming in this weekend that's supposed to bring more snow all the way down to 3,500 feet. So let's hope these keep coming and that we have a miracle March that could really help everybody throughout this county and with our surface water problems that we've got. So also had my first meeting for the Porterville Fair Sales Committee, which I chair. My wife and I did. We had that last week, and that'll be coming up in May. And we always look forward to that and helping the 4-H and FFA kids get top dollar for their animals at the Porterville Fair. So that's all I have. Thank you.
We're going to start putting a limit on the time that the board members can speak, otherwise we'll be here all day.
I wasn't done.
Very quickly, I just wanted to say that at the farm show last week that was well attended, there was also a little event that occurred that was a new methane gas plant using cow manure. It's the first of its kind in California. There's a number of these throughout the state, but I did go see the opening for that and toured the facility. It's down in the Pixley area, and the methane is piped in from the dairy, which is less than a mile away. Goes through a process which is very simple process. They use the same things that are found in a cow's stomach and just keep it under a little longer than the cow can hold it. And as a consequence, they end up with this methane gas, which is used to run the power plant for the ethanol plant. And then the effluent, the liquid, is actually a better fertilizer when they get through their process, and it goes right back to the dairy where it can be used, and the dry material becomes bedding for the cow. So it's a neat project, and hopefully we'll see more of these happening in Tulare County. Also attended a Library for London meeting, and just to get the board and let you all know that the lot has been cleared of a dilapidated structure, and so we will move forward now with the plans, and hopefully we'll get the construction and completion of that library by September. And finally, I was at a CSEC Board of Directors meeting last week in Sacramento and received some rather disturbing news, which I passed on to our CAO and hope in our RMA department, that I've never really understood the triple flip that occurred at Sacramento, but I understand now that it's bad news for us. And what's happening because of the drop of price of gasoline, which is great for the consumer, the hit to Tulare County's road fund will probably be in over $4 million this coming year. And so that means that much less work will be able to be accomplished as we rebuild and maintain our road structure. So that's all I have, and at this time we'll take up a public comment period. Anyone wishing to address the board on matters which are not on today's agenda but within our jurisdictions, invited to come forward. and you have 3 minutes to give public comment. Romelia, I know that you are here. Did you want to speak?
Thank you. My name is Romelia Castillo, and I'm in Steve Worthy District. And I'm here today to thank you for the contribution you gave for the Vietnam Veteran Wall back in September. It's a new year. I'm here again to ask for some funding, if you could help us out with the Good Works funding that they have. We've raised so far $40,000 towards the wall. The wall is costing $177,000. And I'd like to make the invitation for the dedication of the Vietnam Veteran Wall to be displayed at the Dinuba Memorial Hall on April the 30th. You could put that in your calendar. And I'm here too, like Supervisor Ennis said, a miracle for March. If we could get a check cut out in March, that would be wonderful. And I also, we have a website. I gave it to the clerk. I don't know if you have that information in front of you. And we've given you a book of the wall, so you can put it in your library. Thank you.
Thank you, Romelia.
And I also like to invite now Moses Ibarra, and he'll be showing you the plaque that you'll be receiving in the honor of the money that you gave last year. Moses?
Well, before I speak, I just kind of want to show you the plaques that I have. I have two types. One is engraved and one is laser.
Michelle.
Okay. My name is Moses Ibarra. I've been a vegetable farmer for 45 years. And at age 52, my kids started bringing home some really challenging problems. And I said, hey, I could do that. So at 52, I went out and got a credential, started teaching math. But besides that, I'm also on this committee to bring the wall to Dinuba. And one of the reasons that I'm doing that, because there's 58,383 reasons why I want to do this. Our country is basically, our major resources are our young individuals. And with education, what happens is that they'll lead our country into the future. And again, there's other individuals that answer their country's call. And some of these individuals do not come back. And I just want to, what did they actually do for us? When we take a look at our Constitution and our Bill of Rights, they state that we have the opportunity to succeed. And these individuals that gave their life, actually, what they did was that they guarantee these rights that we have under the Constitution and our Bill of Rights. So, basically, that's why I'm here, to remember, to honor, and to not forget them. Thank you.
Thank you very much for being here. Anyone else wishing to address us during public comment period? Seeing no one, we will close the public comment period and take up our consent calendar items before we get to our timed items. Item number 6 will be pulled from today's agenda and be brought back at a later time. Item number 31 will be pulled for separate consideration. Are there any other items that members of the board wish to handle separately or have questions about? Anyone from the public? If not, I would entertain a motion.
Move for approval of balance the consent calendar.
Motion by Supervisor Ennis.
I'll second that.
Seconded by Supervisor Vanderpool. Please cast your votes. Votes are cast. It's unanimous. Item number 31. Morning, Ms. Yates.
Morning. Peg Yates, Director of Tulare County Information Communications Technology Department. Item 31 was the item to approve a statement of work for SC Communications. This statement of work is to bring all of our tower sites into R56 compliance, which is what's going to allow us to do simulcast. There was a couple of errors made in the agenda item. One was in the fiscal impact area. The account number that was referenced was actually the ICT department rather than radio department, and that should be changed. And we've submitted that update to the board. Also, there should have been an odd 308 to move some funds from fund balance into this line item to be able to cover the cost of the projects. If you have any questions, I'm here to answer
Questions? Entertain a motion.
Motion to approve, Mr. Chair.
Motion by Mr. Cox, second by Mr. Vanderpool. Please cast your votes, and the votes are unanimous.
them. Thank you.
One more
So
time.
amended.
Yes, okay, very good. All right, at this time, we'll take up our timed items, and item number 4 is a public hearing, a request from the Solid Waste Department to approve the proposed sludge and mattress tipping fees. What an interesting combination.
Yes, it is. Bryce Howard, Director of Solid Waste. Simply, I'm here to request a new tipping rate for use of sludge as ADC and for disposal or recycling of mattresses. Sludge ADC pricing we're requesting is $12 per ton, and the mattress recycling price is $15 per ton, $15 per unit. Mattress, box spring, each will be $15. I think I'll start off with the sludge. About a year and a half ago, I started looking out to the cities and asking them, how can we get your business back? How can you get your volume back in our landfills? And several of them at that time, City of Tulare was one of them, City of Visalia said, hey, can you take our sludge? And I said, no, we really can't. We have a landfill that we are allowed to take it if we had a permit, because it's a double composite liner up in Visalia landfill. The other two landfills we were not able to take because we don't have the right lining system, but we don't have a permit for it. And so in that process of looking at how to stabilize revenue and to reach out to our customers, staff started working with the Water Board and with Environmental Health to get that minor permit modification in place. And they got that permit modification in place in August. At that time, and that permit modification has restrictions on it. It says that we can only take so much per year. We can only take so much per day. We have to have a certain moisture content. It has to be secondary treated. It has to come from a sewage waste treatment plant. With that in place, then I went back to those cities, City of Tulare, City of Visalia, and Dinuba in particular, and reached out to them and said, are you interested in bringing sludge as a disposal into our landfill? Because we have pricing for that. We have a $34 per disposal rate, plus we have some contract rates with the City of Tulare at a reduced rate. They basically said, well, the marketplace, we can do better somewhere else. So I went back to our staff and said, what can we do? And in looking at it, we can use this product as an alternative daily cover, which reduces our costs quite significantly and gives them diversion credits as well. So in looking at that, we decided that was the way we were going to go. We went back out to the cities and approached them again and said, where we need to be in the marketplace, what makes sense. And we had just, in August, I think it was, we had passed an ADC rate to take C&D fines at $12. And that's where the market is for this type of product. For us, it works out great. It is a little bit of additional revenue, but more importantly, it provides a competitive outlet to the City of Visalia, Dinuba, Tulare, and anyone else in Tulare County for that matter. So that's where we came about on the sludge. That's where we're here today asking for that new rate of $12 per ton. On the mattresses, a little bit different story on that. Mattresses are very difficult to landfill, very challenging. They don't really compress. They seem to pop up. They're really a pain.
Springs?
Yeah, the springs. The springs are particularly bad. A bulldozer or a compactor, a landfill piece of equipment will get pushing that equipment. It'll get mixed up in the transmission and the drives and the gears. It takes forever to get it out. It'll ruin a piece of equipment, tens of thousands of dollars very quickly. So you have to be very careful about managing that product. What we did is we looked out and we said, what does it cost us to actually dispose of these? And what it came out to be was right around the amount we're requesting, which is right around $15 per ton. The loss of airspace, equipment utilization, extra personnel. But there are a number of places in California that are recycling these products. So we looked out to those vendors and said, what can we do differently? And about for the same disposal price, we can recycle these products. So we looked at that. We reached out to a couple of nonprofit organizations, one particularly up in Oakland area, that will come down, take our mattresses, and take it back up there. That works out to be around $13.50 to $15 per ton to do that. So it works out to be right around the same price. So that's what I'm here requesting is new tipping fees for the sludge at $12 per ton and mattress tipping fee at $15.
Now, just to be clear, Bryce, did you say it's $15 per ton or per unit?
Per unit.
Per unit. Okay, all right. Yes, Mr. Vanderpool.
I had a couple questions. First of all, related to the sludge. One, will you post publicly the schedule of the trucks carrying the sludge driving on our roadways so we can stay off? I'm kidding. But in all seriousness, is there any provision that we're going to make sure that it's only local sludge that's going to be coming to our landfills? We're not going to be dealing with the situation like some other counties where it could be trucked in from far out of the area to come in?
Well, interestingly, first of all, there is a fairly significant restriction on how much we can take.
Okay.
We can take about 20% of the volume we dispose of each day, which works out to be about 4 to 6 truckloads a day.
Okay.
Fairly limited number in comparison. So, like for an example, City of Visalia will produce right now, because of how their system's working, about 2 truckloads a day. Tulsa's got a little bit of a stockpile. They want to move a little bit more, a little quicker. We have an ordinance in place that says we can't import trash or disposal.
Okay.
We have that ordinance. I'm not absolutely sure it applies to ADC, but certainly that's up to your board and county council to say that.
Okay.
We're not actively out marketing this.
Thank you.
Okay, good questions, Mr.
My concern, I had the same exact concern. I think I talked to you years ago when I was on the city council. We had a split tier system. If you were, from Visalia, you got one rate. If you were out of Visalia for this sludge, you paid a different rate. Have you thought about doing that for out of county? Because no one's going to say anything until you hit your 4 trucks a day limit, right?
Well, in a way, it's up to, certainly we can do that. Your board can restrict this to in-county pricing only if you choose to. But certainly the way this process is going to work, they're going to have to submit us analytical on the material and moisture content analysis, and then we will schedule that in as we can handle it. And it'll be more like an approved list of who we can take and how much we can take than the other way around. And
Gotcha.
just show up and you're first come, first serve. It's not going to work that way.
Great. Thank you.
Any other questions? This is a public hearing. Anything else to say, Bryce? Public hearing is now open. Anyone wishing to address the board on this matter is welcome to come forward at this time. Really? No one wants to speak out about sludge? All right, good. All right, we'll close the public hearing and bring it back to the board for action. I just wanted to say first again, Bryce, how much I appreciate the inventiveness and incentives that you've done to bring business back to Tulare County, all kinds of business, mattresses and sludge. And to do so in a way that, one of the things that came to my mind was that I'm assuming the sludge has probably taken great distances or further distances than around here. So from an air quality standpoint, the communities that are close by will be able to bring it to our landfills, which are close by. They won't have to drive clear across the valley. Is that an accurate assessment?
That's correct. Yeah, this is a much shorter distance. Most do land application in the summertime, then composting in the winter, and they have to drive great distance. It'll be a nice savings for
It'll
those
save
who-
them the cost of transportation. It'll
Yep.
be an air quality benefit, and so we're helping to provide good service to our communities, and that's what we're all about. So, any other comments or questions? Can I entertain a motion?
I think it's a good idea. I'll move for approval.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Ennis, seconded by Mr. Ishida. Please cast your votes, and the votes are unanimous. Take up item number 5, which is also a public hearing. Request from the Resource Management Agency to conduct a public hearing to find, based on substantial evidence in the record, that the analysis presented in the finding of consistency for the Porterville Area Community Plan 2015 update, inclusive of GPA 14-008. And this goes on and on. I think I'll stop there and let you take over, Aaron.
Chairman Worthley, Board, CAO, Council, City of Porterville. I am here today, Aaron Bach, Chief Planner of Tulare County, RMA, to discuss with you the General Plan Amendment, GPA 14-008. The request from staff today is to receive staff's presentation, to continue the public hearing, and then to close the public hearing and make a motion. But first, we'd like to start off by giving some acknowledgments to the effort that went into completing this plan in such a timely manner. First of all, we'd like to thank the Board of Supervisors and City Council for arriving to the settlement, but also we'd like to thank Gene Rousseau himself and the leadership in RMA, including Michael Spada and Michael Washam, who, with their direction, we've been able to fulfill a lot of obligations in a fairly short time. And we'd also like to thank Clinton Simmons and the legal staff for directing some of the resolution matters and the staff reports and really digging into the nuts and bolts. Of course, I definitely want to thank staff, especially Dave Bryant and Celeste Perez, who actually put this document together, which is a very difficult task to do. And we'd also like to thank the City of Porterville, City Manager John Lawless, Jenny Byers, who's definitely, her contribution is very meritorious in this matter, as well as Julie Phillips.
Mr. Chair, real quick before we continue, I'd also like to thank you too, Mr. Bach. You were on that list and you didn't want to thank yourself, but we appreciate all your efforts.
Thank you. So what we are approving today is the Porterville Area Plan. This is the implementation of the general plan. This is the land use plan you can see before you. As well as you can see, there is an area designated for East Porterville, but what we've adopted is the city's land use standards and their circulation element, so their traffic standards and also their development standards, all within the area of Porterville's UAB to align with the county UAB. So just as a matter of clarifications from our previous meeting, the adoption and application of the city UDB and city standards and designations for the CAC UDB for Porterville, clarifying some of the finer points from last time. Within the CAC UDB for Porterville, the city's land use designations and development policies, master plans for sewer, water, and storm drainage facilities, and the circulation element diagrams are being approved today. Adoption of any other regulations within the CAC UDB in the future for Porterville will be consistent with the city standards. A county corridor plan will not be located inside the CAC UDB or Porterville SOI unless mutually agreed upon in the future. The county can adopt modified standards as designations as stated, so long as they are consistent or compatible with the city standards. Further clarifications for East Porterville's UDB. When processing any applications for development within the CAC UDB, the county will not approve development that would result in any inconsistency or incompatibility with the city standards, except when the application proposes development on land inside the East Porterville County community. So that is the exception to the above rule. But again, what this document does is it incorporates all of the I shouldn't say incorporates. With your approval, you will approve all the city standards that will be applied to all new subdivisions being approved inside East Porterville, with with the exception to the minor projects, including parcel maps, and they will conform to the city setbacks, but will not apply the development or infrastructure standards of the city unless already required to do so by county code, which means if they're within 1,300 feet, they will automatically have to hook up to the city's available infrastructure. So how will this be implemented in the future? Again, revisions to the city development standards and master plans will be considered under separate action by this board. Again, when the minor project applications come in, including parcel maps, they will be required to conform with the setbacks associated with these standards, but will not be required to apply the development or infrastructure standards. Further clarification that the settlement agreement between the county and city of Porterville details how the county will implement these policies within the Porterville CAC UDB and CAC UAB. And also for further clarification, I wanted to be noted that we are implementing the general plan today and not necessarily the settlement agreement. The environmental finding of consistency. According to Section 15168C2 of the General Plan Guidelines, this area plan is within the scope of the project covered by the program EIR for the city of Porterville, so therefore it is consistent. The area plan does not result in any new or environmental effects upon what was analyzed in the city of Porterville's 2030 General Plan EIR. And today you are also adopting a statement of overriding consideration that is consistent with the Porterville General Plan EIR. So our recommendation, I'll just quickly read through this, that we certify and adopt the finding of consistency and statement of overriding consideration, that we direct the environmental assessment officer to file a notice of determination with the Tulare County clerk, that we adopt the general plan amendment GPA 14-008 to the Porterville Area Community Plan, adopt development standards and city master infrastructure plans for the unincorporated area around the city of Porterville, Porterville Area County Adopted City Urban Development Boundary, CAC UDB, and determine that the Tulare County Board of Supervisors will independently review and exercise its discretion when considering the adoption of the Porterville development standards and city master infrastructure plans in the future. Thank you. That completes staff's report, and I and Dave Bryan are available here to answer any of your questions.
Thank you, Aaron. Are there any questions from board members? No. All right, this is again a public hearing. Anyone wishing to address the board in this matter is invited to come forward at this time. Give us your name and address. Welcome, Mr. Stowe.
Chairmans, supervisors, see him. I want to thank you, and I particularly want to thank staff for the county and our staff for the collaboration of this, and thank you for considering the adoption of this general plan, because you know a lot of things regarding water in the East Porterville hinges around this plan. And once again, you know, on behalf of the City Council and myself, we want to thank you very much for your collaboration in this matter. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Stowe. Anyone else? Seeing no one, we will close the public comment period, bring it back to the board for action.
Chairman, I'd move for approval.
Second that.
Motion by Mr. Ennis, seconded by Mr. Cox. Please cast your votes. Votes are unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you, Aaron. All right, that takes us into our single untimed item. Let's see it here. Item number 48. Request from General Services to publicly consummate the purchase of a portion of real property at 3909 Avenue 54 in Alpa. Welcome, Mr. Newby.
Morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Mr. Rousseau and Mrs. Lang. I am Robert Newby. I work in Property Management and General Services within the CAO's office. The matter before you today is to consummate the purchase of real property at 3909 Avenue 54 in Alpa, next to the Alpa Fire Station. It's actually a portion, maybe half of that property address, and it's vacant land. And on January 27th, your board set this date to accept public comment regarding the board's intent to approve this property purchase. A notice regarding this action was published in the Visalia Times Delta, inviting the public to comment on this property purchase. This purchase, as I said, is for 2 vacant lots created on the map of the town site of Alpa, totaling almost 11,000 square feet. The property purchase has been negotiated at a price of $12,000 or $6,000 per lot. The intended use of the property is to provide land area to install additional leash lines for the fire station septic system that has failed and became necessary and expensive to pump on a frequent basis. The land area could also provide space for updated living quarters for on-duty fire staff at some future date. RMA has reported that the purchase and intended use is consistent with the adopted general plan. Besides accepting public comment, this action approves the purchase of the property and authorizes the chairman to sign the agreement for a purchase and sale. It directs the county environmental assessment officer or his designee to file a notice of exemption with the county clerk recorder, authorizes the county administrative officer or his designee to execute all additional documents to consummate the purchase, and it directs the auditor to draw a warrant in favor of Chicago Title Company for the purchase price and the county's estimated share of escrow costs. That is it. Property purchase. Are there any questions?
Any questions? Yes, Mr.
Just a comment. Nothing to question what you're bringing forward, but I just want to say this is a great project. I think this is outstanding for the community of Alpa. You know, the county fire station, the new bays for the truck and facility that we just recently built there is really the jewel in that community in terms of county presence. We have the library, as well, but we don't have that open all of the time. But the fire station is there 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. And it's very important that we have a good facility, and what this is going to do is going to make sure that that fire station stays stable into the future. So I fully support this, and I know that the residents in Alpha will welcome our presence there on this additional property.
There seems to be a theme today. I don't know, sludge, mattresses, and leech lions. I don't know. Any other comments?
Any public comment or anything?
Any of the public wish to speak to this matter? All right, I entertain a motion.
I would move for approval, Mr. Chair.
Motion by Mr. Van. Seconded by Mr. Ennis. All in favor, signify. Oh, I'm sorry. Cast your votes. Votes are unanimous. Thank you. That concludes our meeting this morning, except for closed session items.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, you have, oops, upside down. Your board has matters remaining on its closed session. Items A and B are off agenda. You've already dealt with item C. So you have the items D through H remaining on your board's closed session agenda. I do anticipate one announcement.
Very well. Thank you for being here this morning.
There we go. Announcement of closed session today, February 24th, 2015, by Kathleen Bales-Lang, County Council. In the matter of item D on the board's closed session agenda, Veal et al. Versus County of Tulare. The Los Angeles County Superior Court case number MC024654. The board voted to authorize a defense of this action and defense of individual employees on a reservation of rights, or with a reservation of rights, on motion of Supervisor Ennis, seconded by Supervisor Ishida on a unanimous vote. This case is a personal injury case. There are no other announcements.